Hey guys, we're back here in Path of Exile 2. Now, I wanted to do a bit of a feedback video today. I think there are a few major problems with the endgame here from the perspective of a new player and more of a solo, self-found type of thing. I think some of these problems aren't as bad if you're doing trade and all that sort of stuff, but all right, so first up, let's talk about the mapping here and actually being able to sustain your map progress here in the Atlas. So it's really not obvious at first in this game that you're supposed to be quote unquote juicing these waystones, right? The game doesn't really explain this to you. And if you're a new player, you're just probably not going to do this when you first start out. And if you run these waystones without any quote unquote juice in them, you're basically never going to get more waystones to drop for you. Now, even when you juice them up, I don't know, do I have one here? This one contains an additional shrine. Here you go. Here, this one has a rarity of items, which is pretty cool. Additional packs. This one is actually not bad, not too bad. So this one we can run, but it's only a tier 1. Now, even with the increased drop chance there's actually not a 100% chance that you're even going to get another waystone to drop for you during this map. And there's no guarantee that you'll ever get a higher one either. I ran a whole bunch of tier 1 and tier 2 maps when I first jumped in here, and I barely ever had anything drop higher than tier 3. And even the tier 3s, they're not guaranteed to drop you any more waystones. And this is sort of the problem. It's really, really hard to sustain these maps early on. And from a new player perspective, it's not obvious that this is what you're supposed to do. So how do you even juice these? You're supposed to use these orbs. For example, look, we'll juice this one live here for you. Additional monsters. Here you go. And so on and so forth. I'm not going to waste my Regal on there since it's just a tier 1, but as you can see, now we have a higher chance to drop more Waystone. So this is nice. Now, you can also go into the Atlas tree. There is some progress you can make in here for more Waystone to be higher tiers. I've got these 3 unlocked and it still doesn't really seem to make much of a difference whatsoever. So I think the map sustain is really the number one, or one of the main issues here in the end game. I think number 2, let's talk about loot and that sort of thing. So loot in these low tier maps is honestly pretty bad, especially if you're not running a whole bunch of rarity. I think on my build I have somewhere around 40 or so rarity on at the moment, which is not super high. I could be running more. That's definitely true. However, even with a chunk of rarity on my gear, about 40, I am just almost never seeing upgrades to drop. I'm almost never seeing a higher tier gear. I've seen one tier 3 weapon my entire time in the mapping system here. I've seen a couple of tier 2 armor pieces, but they were just not for my character. They were trash. I had to get rid of them because, I could take them, put them in the vault for another character too, but they didn't really have great rolls on them either. And that's what I want to talk about here. The gear rolls in this game. Man, there are so many trash stats that can roll on some of these pieces. Like this one here is actually pretty good. We got resistances and energy shield. So this is actually a pretty good item. But man, it is really, really hard to get what feels like a genuine upgrade through the mapping system in this game. Even when you juice, quote unquote, juice some of these and they have increased drops and all that sort of stuff, there's no guarantee, number 1, that you're going to get an item that's for your class. And then even if you do, there's no guarantee it's going to be a higher level item than what you already have. And then number 3, it's not even going to be guaranteed to be decent stat roll or, affix roll on it. And then we can talk about the economy for crafting as well, because unless you're running a whole bunch of rarity, you're not really seeing a whole lot of the regals, and you're not seeing much of the exalts at all. Now, unfortunately, rarity, it's just something that I've become aware of only in the past few days, since it's been like the hot topic on YouTube and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, you really have to stack up rarity right now. Otherwise, it feels like the currency drops are just pretty much against you. Like, I've been hunting a better weapon for my build here for so long now. Right, I've been running the combo of a wand with the focus here to get more stats. But man, I'm just not finding anything that is going with my build here. The best one I found for a lightning build is the +2 to the lightning spells here. Increased shock is okay. And then this one just roll with extra damage stuff and crit chance. So I'm like, you know what? This is okay. I'll use this one for now. But again, I've been hunting for a weapon upgrade for so long now. It's just not coming. The other thing I've been looking for is gear that has more energy shield. I actually got a unique here recently, which was pretty cool. This one increases your spell damage, decreases your cast speed a little bit, but it's not bad. Yeah, so the loot at the moment for low tiers here, it feels like it's really, really hard to progress your character in a solo self-found type of scenario here. Look, you might get lucky, you might get RNG drop in your favor, and you get some really good uniques, and you get a particular weapon that's really, really powerful for your build, and then you're kind of, ooh, you're off to the moon, right? And the other thing I want to talk about is defenses, right? Even when you're or near capped with your resistances, or even fully capped, you need a butt ton of life and or energy shield, mostly energy shield really, because energy shield is kind of the meta here now. You need so much energy shield to survive that even when you have 4,000 or 5,000 or whatever, you can still easily get taken out by 2 or 3 hits. One of the other thing that I want to mention here is there's so much stagger on a lot of the enemies. That stagger threshold almost starts to feel like a requirement, at least for my character here, because my character is about spamming out a spark, and if you're getting staggered constantly, you cannot cast, and then you die, and it's no fun, right? Number 3, which is kind of related, I want to talk about the difference between solo self-found and the trade league right now. I think the gap is way too vast. It's kind of crazy. It's pretty much playing a different game if you're playing solo self-found versus playing on trade league. I think the gap there is way too big. I'm fine with there being a trade league in the game. I'm not against trade or anything like that, but the way it currently stands, the gap is so vast that it kind of feels bad. Kind of feels bad from the perspective of trying to progress naturally as a solo player, right? And then you just see these crazy, crazy builds, these loot pieces that never drop for you, and all this sort of stuff, and stingy economy. That's one of the other things when you're playing solo. The economy feels way too stingy. Like now that I'm in Endgame a bit, I have a little bit of gold sitting here now, but it's taken me a long time to even get up to 200,000 gold. I have barely any exalts going at the moment. I don't know. Yeah, the economy and the stinginess here in the early part of the end game just feels pretty bad. I do want to talk about one other thing here as well, and that is the XP loss on death, and death being like really punishing here in the end game. Now, when you die, you lose your map progress, so the waystone, all the juice you put on there if you did juice it up. But you also lose a really big chunk of XP, which means if you are stuck at around, tier 1 to tier 5 and you're feeling like you can't progress, each death sets you back so significantly. And man, and the higher level you get, the worse it is, because it takes longer and longer each level to level up, right? Man, I understand maybe above level 90 if you wanted to put penalty on death, but having it start at level 70 feels pretty bad, especially when you're trying to make progress here in the early mapping phase. The truth of the matter is, like, low tier stuff, tier 1 and 2, even up to like tier 4, 5, they just don't really drop anything that feels like a significant upgrade for my character. Really have to start going above tier 6, 7 to even start seeing the higher tier stuff drop. So I guess the last thing we can talk about here is the Ascendancy trials to get your 3rd and 4th one. So I finally have had one of these drop just now. Completing this Ascension trial will grant additional Ascendancy points. So I actually still only have my 4 Ascendancy points from the campaign, because this is literally the first time I'm going to be able to even attempt a higher tier Ascendancy trial. I have never seen the Ultimatum one drop, so I don't even have a chance to even try that one yet. So I think I don't know. I don't think Ascension should be gate kept behind, incredibly difficult content. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that one? That one I'm kind of on the fence about. I don't mind it necessarily. It's only level 67 area, so we should be able to get through that. We just have to focus on our honor, resistance, and you know, that sort of stuff. I don't know, these Jin buyer things seem to be pretty rare, so maybe if you're going to make it this difficult, maybe you need to have a few more of these things dropping, because they don't seem to drop unless you're doing above like level 6 or so on the tier map. And I don't know, it's really easy to mess these trials up because of the honor system, so I don't know. I personally don't feel like you need to gatekeep the subclass stuff behind really, really hard content. But, you know, that's just my thought. You guys maybe disagree on that. I don't know. Anyway, overall, I'm really enjoying Path of Exile 2, even though there are some definite issues here in the endgame. Sustaining the maps is probably the biggest problem for me, because it just doesn't feel like I can make much progress from my current point. And number 2 is the loot. I just am not getting drops that are upgrading my character. And because I'm playing solo, you know, without the trade, it feels like a huge handicap. But there we go, guys. There's the feedback video for today. Hope you guys enjoy. We'll be back on the channel with some more Path of Exile 2 soon. Consider hitting like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next video. Hope you all have a fantastic, amazing day.